What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my Draftkings MMA picks video for UFC Vegas 100. We have Carlos Prates going against Neil Magny. I'm actually really liking this card from a Draftkings perspective. Kind of have a free square potentially open up throughout the week. Had some fights fall off, but currently we are at a 12 fight card, I believe. So looking forward to breaking down this card from a DraftKings perspective. As always, before we get into, if you guys could do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment. All three of those things go a very long way. And I do want to shout out the sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. Right now, if you guys check out Prize Picks and use that code DFSBTN, you'll get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup, whether it wins or loses. $50 will instantly be added into your Prize Picks account. Again, check it out. Use that code DFSBTN. With all that out of the way, I say we get into it. We're going to start with the fight doesn't go to decision lines here. A couple big ones. I think we haven't had a ton of violence as of late, but this is a card that kind of screams violence, so we'll see. And up top, we got Prates Magny minus 800 for the fight doesn't go to decision, which is certainly wide, but at the same time, it's like I really do struggle seeing this fight go 25 minutes, let alone 15 minutes. So I think it's probably Prates by first or second round knockout. I would be looking his way. He is the most expensive fighter on the card, though, at $9,600. This is one we'll talk about a little bit more, where I don't mind maybe getting away from this fight, hoping that Magny's able to last into that second round, maybe even the third. But I think it's Prates or pass for me. Probably not going to touch Magny, although he is cheap, but I think he probably does get knocked out. Next, we got Abdul Malik Dusko Todorovic. And this is one that I think absolutely finished inside the distance. Abdul Malik has been to decision, never been to decision, never been to the third round. He has been over 1.5 rounds once. It was in his last fight on the Contender Series. And kind of how I see this fight playing out is I think, Sir Abdul Malik will be able to get takedowns, will be able to get on top and probably pound in Dusko's head on the mat. I mean, this guy, Abdul Malik, has some of the nastiest grounded pound I think I've ever seen. And Dusko Todorovic, he can be taken down. And we saw that really in a lot of fights, but most concerningly was the Jordan Wright fight where he was taken down. Like, I think Abdul Malik should be able to get on top here and get that TKO. With that said, though, if this fight gets extended, if this fight goes past the first round and a half, I think that does heavily favor Dusko, who has been able to go 15 minutes. Abdul Malik, I'm still not entirely sure on his cardio. So in terms of a dart throw, I think Todorovic could be interesting, but I think the most likely scenario is that Abdul Malik first round TKO. Next, we got Ramius Bolaños. Was it minus 250 for the fight? Doesn't go to decision. This is a fight that I do like to finish as well. It's a Cortavius Ramius fight. It's going to be chaotic, and I think just wherever this fight goes, somebody's going to have a path to finish. Whether it's on the feet, both guys could land a knockout. Bolaños has an 86% knockout rate. We've seen Ramius knocked out before, got knocked out in 60 seconds on the Contender Series. And if this fight hits the mat, I think it heavily favors Cortavius Ramius. So, I actually really like the price tag of Ramius here, $8,700. I feel like he could win by knockout or submission especially if he does take it there. But Bolaños, I think, is live as well. If Ramius does go out there and strike and stand and bang, Bolaños can land a knockout in his own right. So, great fight to target. Both these guys, decent salaries to play with. So, I like this fight a lot. And then we got a strawweight fight up in here for, one of the most likely fights to end inside the distance. Jillian Robertson and Luana Pinheiro. We have minus 180 for the fight. Doesn't go to decision. And I like Robertson here quite a bit. She's probably one of my favorite plays on the entire card. Money's pouring in on her. I think she's minus 400 now, just about. So not only do I think she wins, but I think she has a path to score very well with the wrestling, the takedowns. Pinheiro, very good fighter. I think she's a very good fighter, but for about 7.5 minutes, and then she just falls off a cliff. The cardio is just terrible. I think she has some quit in her. I think Robertson kind of breaks her down the stretch and wins this fight second or third round. So I like Robertson quite a bit. Pinheiro, weirdly enough, I think her path to victory is probably an early knockout, which is not all that likely, but I think that's kind of how she wins. So maybe a couple sprinkles on Pinheiro, maybe, but I'm primarily going to be very high on Robertson this week. Core play. Speaking of Robertson, so we won't get too much into it. I think she should smash here. I think her at strawweight makes perfect sense. She's bigger at this weight class, stronger at this weight class. Rinse and repeat takedowns and eventually find the finish, and a good price tag as well. So I like Robertson there, $9,200. Charles Radke, $8,500. Currently, I think this is the closest line fight on the entire card because we lost Zaleski versus Dalby. And then we lost Johns versus Garbrandt. So now with Racky sitting around like minus 150, minus 160, it is the closest line fight on the card. But I do think that Racky has multiple paths to victory here. I think he could both maybe land a knockout on the feet. This guy has a ton of power. Or I think if he gets the fight down to the mat, he has a big advantage. Matthew Semmelsberger's sub 50% takedown defense. Semmelsberger's been sub before. He's been put into a ton of bad spots. And Charles Racky is a black belt in BJJ. So I don't mind some Racky here, 8,500. Cortavius Ramius, 8,700 we talked about a little bit. I think this fight's going to be absolute chaos. I think somebody's getting served. I think Ramius has more paths here, especially with the grappling. I think on the ground, he has an astronomical advantage if he does choose to get it there. If he does, I think he gets the sub. But if it does, stay standing, I also think he can get a knockout as well. So I like Ramius here inside the distance, 8,700. Sounds good to me with a finish win. And then here's the big one here. We got Elijah Zaleski dos Santos at 8,000. So Elijah Zaleski dos Santos was supposed to fight Nicholas Dalby. Nicholas Dalby pulled out, and in steps Zach Scroggin. Zach Scroggin, he's 7-0, but you can dig into his record a little bit more. He's fought just absolutely nobody. And then stylistically, it's like, I think it's a really good matchup for Zaleski. Zaleski's going to be the much better striker. Scroggin, I like the volume that he throws, but he's very, very, very hittable. I don't like that. Scroggin can be taken down. He has literally no takedown defense. He'll jump to Gilly. He'll end up on bottom. He'll look to go for takedowns in his fights and probably look to go for takedowns here, but I don't see him taking down Zaleski. Zaleski's also a black belt as well, so it's like everywhere this fight goes, Zaleski should be better. He's fought the much better competition, more experience. He's been there, done that. Scroggin's coming in here on short notice, about a week notice, so yeah, I think it's Zaleski here all day, and we're getting him at 8,000. This is a guy that probably should be priced, 9,300, 9,400, so we're getting him at 8,000. I like him quite a bit, and as is everybody else, though, but I'm going to be very high on Zaleski this week. Next, we got our GPP plays here. We'll start with Carlos Praches, 9,600. Like I said earlier, you can maybe get away from Praches. He's going to obviously have a ton of ownership. The main event, a guy with a lot of hype. So maybe hope that he goes out there, low volume first round, maybe gets a second round finish. Maybe that's not enough to find the optimal lineup. That's kind of what I think I might do, actually. But, I think he wins this fight. I'm very confident he wins this fight, and I think it is a knockout. But if it's not in the first round, round two, especially, like if this fight reaches like the third round, I'm not sure he pays off this price tag. He's so low volume, he's not going to grapple, but I do think he does get the knockout. So we'll see. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet with Praches. There are some spots I do like more, but yeah, he should win. He should get a knockout within the first 3 rounds. Next, we got Reinier de Ridder, 9,100. This is a fight that, I think should absolutely be targeted, and a fight that finishes as well. The fight doesn't go to decision, though. It's only like minus 150, which I don't really get. De Ridder, this guy's a finisher, as is Gerald Meerschaert. I think wherever this fight goes, either guy is going to be dangerous. But yeah, De Ridder is looking to get the fight down to the mat early and often and look to finish Gerald Meerschaert, whether it's by submission, whether it's by TKO. Gerald Meerschaert's been, finished 12 times in his career. De Ridder's been finished in both of his losses, so yeah, I think somebody's getting served here. And I think if De Ridder's winning this fight, I think it's kind of got to be early. I guess I could see maybe De Ridder winning a decision, but this guy's cardio, I'm just not sold on at all. I've seen him slow down in every single fight that gets extended. I've seen him quit in fights before, so I think De Ridder round 1 finish is very much on the table here at 9,100. And I think it's a solid play. I'd honestly rather take De Ridder over Praches. You're getting $500 savings. You get that first round upside and that wrestling upside as well. But yeah, De Ridder I think is very much in play. Mansour Abdul Malik, 9,300. Another play I love a lot this week. Takedown upside. Dusko cannot stuff a takedown. Knockout upside. Dusko blocks punches with his face. Dusko's very chinny, and Abdul Malik hits like an absolute truck. So I think Abdul Malik first round finish is very much on the table, and if it's not the first, it's the second. And I think in a win, Abdul Malik scores a ton of points. So yeah, I like Abdul Malik quite a bit at 9,300. And then another one is going to be Melissa Mullins, 8,800. Yeah, lineup construction is going to be tough this week because it's like, there's no mid-range, pretty much. There's no, the mid-range is Elijah Zaleski. That's it. We've lost the other fight. So, but yeah, I like a lot of these, higher-priced fighters. Mullins, 8,800. I think she got some takedown upside. I think once she gets on top, she's nasty, she's vicious, and I just don't think Segovia belongs really in the UFC. So I think Mullins could be like a sneaky play here. I don't think she's going to have a ton of ownership, but I think she actually has some sneaky upside at 8,800. Getting into the live dogs here, we unfortunately lost Cody Garbrandt, so we lost the live dog. So which was like one of the dogs I was kind of looking at. But yeah, next one, I guess we'll go with Matthew Semmelsberger, 7,700. Who, although I'm not picking to win, it cannot be ignored that Matthew Semmelsberger has just a ton of power. Matthew Semmelsberger has like 9 or 10 knockdowns in the UFC. Charles Racky's been knocked out a couple times. So yeah, Semmelsberger, I think he's live. Am I picking him to win? No, but if he does win, maybe it's by knockout. Gaston Bolaños, 7,500. Same thing. I'm not picking him to win, but is he live? Yes. And if he does win, what's it by? It's by knockout. Bolaños has a ton of power. Ramius is probably going to stand and bang with him for at least a little bit. And if he does that, he could get caught. So I think Bolaños, another guy with some knockout upside. And then Gerald Meerschaert, 7,100. I mean, we've seen it time and time again with Gerald Meerschaert. He gets beat up early, he gets put into bad spots, he survives, and then he breaks you and finishes you in the second or third round. We've literally seen it a million times at this point, and it would not shock me here against De Ridder, who I think De Ridder, although a much better fighter, at least early on, as this fight gets extended, De Ridder slows down, whereas Meerschaert, that's kind of where he does his best work. So I think Meerschaert's a live dog, really against anybody. So we'll be sprinkling some Meerschaert this week as well. Punt plays, Dusko Todorovic, dart throw. I'm not a big fan of Dusko at all. I think he probably gets his head pounded in, but if this fight reaches the 7.5 minute mark, Abdul Malik, I'm not completely sold on the cardio. Abdul Malik is going to go out there with a very a non-energy conservative game plan. He's going to go out there and try to get takedowns. He puts everything into all of his shots. So you have this. If Dusko's able to survive the first 7.5 minutes, I think he will then be live. It's just, will he survive those 6-7 minutes? I don't think so, but he's a dart throw nonetheless. And then the fade's going to be Denise Gomes, 9,400. We have so many good plays on this card. Like, we got Prochas, who probably gets a first, second, or third round knockout. We got De Ridder, who has, first round knockout upside, first round submission upside. We got Jillian Robertson, who just has a ton of grappling upside, finish upside as well. We got Melissa Mullins, who I like. We just got a lot of other spots I like here. I think Gomes, could she finish Carolina? Maybe. I mean, it's maybe she could, but I think it probably goes to decision. I don't really see her grappling much, so I'm going to fade Denise Gomes this week at 9,400. I think she wins. I'm very confident she wins, but I'm not confident she scores well on DraftKings. And yeah, guys, there you have it. UFC Vegas 100 DraftKings MMA picks. Thank you so much for watching. Should be a good card here from a DraftKings perspective, especially. So yeah, so we got this card, then we got UFC 309 next week. Looking forward to that. If you guys could do me a favor, like on your way out, subscribe as well, and be on the lookout for more content throughout the week. And best of luck, guys. Talk to you soon. See you.